the election turn in the country didn't end, at 11 o'clock in Chicago on election night when Barack was elected, or, announced as the president-elect. The real work's ahead. And,
Yeah.
I give him credit. The speech that he gave to the country, I was down in Grant Park with my wife. It was a somber speech. It was not one that was his usual, inspiring eloquence, but it was an appropriate speech to unify the country and say that he's gonna be the president for everybody. But it's also one to remind everyone that there's a lot of work ahead, and I'm glad he's really focusing now on bringing a really good team together. It's encouraging that despite people that have issues with Hillary Clinton because of the contested primary, bringing her into the cabinet, potentially Secretary of State, bringing in other people that have Republicans, bringing the best people in America to help him govern. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's exciting.
It's
exciting to know that there's going to be some real conversations going on in the White House and different points of view being argued and coming out with the best policies. So it's not going to be a handful of select people with the same background and same point of view. It's going to be different points of view, and Barack's going to come up with the best policies. So it's an exciting time.
I think it's the beginning. It can hopefully be the beginning of turning our back on the kind of politics that left so many people out for so long, certainly for the last 8 years and for many times before. And of course, those of us who have disagreements with Barack on one issue or another should be heartened to know that we're not going to be called traitors if we disagree. That's a big thing, that turns people off to politics as well. If you stood up against the war in the last 8 years, you were branded by some of those the Brain Trust to be actual traitors. Most of us feel pretty patriotic given an opportunity, and you could feel that even from far away. Chicago looked so good on TV that night. Oh,
it was,
my God.
this I also have to say that from time to time, Mayor Daley, isn't warmly embraced on this program or at the Heartland, but I have to say this, that being in Grant Park on election night and after leaving Grant Park and the next day, the city of Chicago did an incredible job of managing that event, and it really showed Chicago in the best light. And it was the people that were down there and just kind of this euphoric spirit of cooperation. And it was the next day, but the police and everyone to put that event together did a phenomenal job.
They're to be lauded. It's true, and there were fears, etc., off of the most previous upheavals at Taste of Chicago last summer. But the other thing was it was a celebration.
It was a celebration.
And
I saw that yesterday Barack went to Manny's over on Roosevelt Road for a corned beef sandwich, and you know what? He might want to come up for a buffalo burger or something at the Heartland. So
I want him to come again to the Heartland because we didn't get to feed him the first time. The speech he gave at the Heartland, by the way, 4 years ago when he was running for Senate, was used liberally in his announcement, his online announcement for president. And you could see all local folks around and the rooftop of the outdoor cafe behind him. And when we played that this week for the crowd that gathered just this past Monday, we had a celebration of the election. And when I asked the crowd, and there must have been 200 people there, how many of you left Chicago to work for Obama? 80% of the people raised their hands. So I think our little corner of the city really, really is to be patted on the back for Indiana, Iowa, parts of Michigan and Wisconsin. I mean, Indiana was the biggest miracle that day.
Right.
It wasn't Ohio. It was Indiana.
It was Indiana. And it was people exactly like you say that, said many people remembered how John Kerry lost after many. We all thought, how could we elect Bush again?
Right.
And we all had that pit in our stomach from the day after that election.
For the next 4 years.
And I think that people said, they're not going to sit back on the couch and watch this. They're going to get engaged. And it was, but the north side was incredibly represented across the Midwest.
Yeah. It also helps that we had a really good candidate.
great candidate.
I mean, a really good candidate.
A great candidate. And, you know, it was. I was watching the video myself the other day down in Springfield online, and you know, it was showing a couple people, and it brought back some great memories. My oldest son Jack, who's 4 years old. I want to say hi to Jack and Harry and Katie.
Hi,
Jack and Harry listen to mommy, and my wife Peggy. But my wife Peggy was pregnant at that time with my oldest son Jack, so it was kind of it was cool to see.
Yeah. So back down to earth. Unfortunately, I actually have no intention of returning to the pre-November 4th, 2008 person or vibe or anything. The world has changed.
It has changed.
There's been a seismic shift, and it's okay for us to have blank eaten grins on our faces for
the
into
next
the
4
future.
years, 4 to 8
off
years.
into the future. But we do have work to do. We have a lot of work to do. And Springfield is one of the places that you work. And it was sort of embarrassing, basically, to leave Chicago on the heels of attending the Democrats' Day down in Springfield. It was before they did Kiss, Kiss, Hug, Hug at the convention. Did that mean anything? What's going to happen? We've got a couple of big shifts going on.
Well, first, let's. I mean, there's a reality that the country in Illinois faces, which is the economy, and the problems that President Obama is going to deal with in Washington with the economy and the shrinking tax base. That's on our doorstep in Illinois, and reports have come out this week about the lost revenue because of the decline in the sales tax or decline in tax base in Illinois. We have a huge deficit now that's growing that we're going to have to deal with, and so that's the bad news. The good news is that having just come back from Springfield, I think that we're at the dawn of a new spirit of cooperation amongst Democrats. This week, John Cullerton from the North Side was elected the Senate president. And our state senator, Heather Staines, did an incredible job of working to get John elected. John is a progressive guy who I think is going to bring in some real good leadership and really let some good ideas come up to the top in the Senate. Emil Jones is retired, and a lot of the being tied at the hip with the governor is going to be retired with him. So I think what you're going to find is that the Senate and the House are going to work more in cooperation. It would be my hope that the governor would kind of see the handwriting on the wall and see the challenges facing our state and understand that some of the bickering that's been there for the last 7 years needs to go out the door. And we all want to improve the quality of life in our state. We need to do it. The Democrats have large majorities in the Senate and the House. The people of the state have given us the responsibility, and we have to work together. So, we still have some real challenges, but I really believe that you're going to see a new cooperation in Springfield. And I would hope that Governor Blagojevich would, even at this late date, kind of see that that's going to happen and that he should be a part of that. But we'll see how that plays out.